I'm Kemad, Hete Peru. Welcome back to Kemetic Tuesday. So yesterday, I had no idea what I wanted to talk about for Kemetic Tuesday. So I had a conversation with Holy Spirit and I was like, okay, what should I talk about? And she said, symbiotic relationships. And I was like, oh, I know where you're going with that. But what does that have to do with Kemeticism, right? And she says, think about Kemetic thought. And eventually I got it, right? In dealing with the way that that ancient Kemetic spirituality and culture was set up, it was based on the observation of nature and the implementation of what you learn from nature to understand yourself, to understand divinity, and to understand nature itself. So, if we're actually applying Kemetic science today, it's not just in talking about the Neteru, incorporating the names of the Neteru into our prayers. It's not just in resurrecting old rituals and doing them today. That is fine and all, right? But it's actually learning to think and incorporate reality into our everyday lives and using it as a way to learn more about ourselves. The Kemites were students of nature. They observed nature, they watched reality, and they learned from it. So that's the same vein that I'm going on for today's session. It's an observation of nature in a way that shows us how we can actually interact with each other and how to deal with these different forms of interaction. So, in talking about symbiotic relationships, the question first becomes, what is a symbiotic relationship? So, a symbiotic relationship or symbiosis is either a close or a long-term relationship between two separate parties, whether it's two separate species, two separate people, right? And there's four different types of symbiotic relationship. And I'm going to talk about each of them. And then I'm going to go back and talk about what that looks like as far as our actual interactions with each other. So the first one is mutualism. This is where both species actually benefit from the interaction. I help you, you help me. Next, we have commensalism. This means that one party benefits, but the other party is not benefited nor harmed. Then you have parasitism, meaning that one party is being helped at the expense of another. And then finally, you have competition, which means that, well, they're competing for resources, they're enemies in a way. So let's look at this. How does this bleed into our social constructs, right? These four types are the four types of relationships that you're going to have. And it's important to know where to have these relationships. In being alive and having life, you can't actually control your interactions with other people on a certain level. You can control how much of what you allow to stay, because some of this is healthy, some of it can be unhealthy. Too much of positive is a bad thing, just as much as too much negative is a bad thing. So it comes more so to regulating how much of what you're interacting with so that you can be healthy overall. So, starting with the first one, right? You have mutualism. These are the relationships that we think about the most when we're thinking about a healthy relationship, right? The a possible problem that can arise within uh, a mutual construct is that you typically only think about doing for others in so much as you see a benefit for yourself. That could cause you to set up barriers and actually mess some things up socially. But overall, the idea alone isn't bad. I help you, you help me, we both benefit from the interaction is more so the overarching thing. And I'll tell you this, make sure you have, and I'll say this as a leader, make sure you have mutual relationships. You need some of those, right? Next, right, we have commensal. Commensalism or commensal, meaning one party benefits and the other party is not harmed. Hey, leaders, I want you to know something. You need to have mutual relationships and you need to have commensal relationships. more than you have the other two. Right? Here's why. A commensal relationship really deals with charity, right? It comes with helping. Sometimes you might need help and you have nothing to offer. You still need a place to go where you know you can receive that help. Or even you being the leader, you're the one that's pouring out. It's okay to give to people that you don't get anything from, as long as, let's just say, you're not being harmed in the process, right? That's a good thing to have. Next, we have parasites. Means that they're being helped at the expense of you, or you're being helped at the expense of them. Now, this oftentimes within our social constructs becomes a byproduct of poor implementation of mutualism. When mutualism fails, people resort to being parasites. Meaning, if we can't both benefit, some people will say, or let's just say this: when people can't do the first two, they'll rely on the third, right? If I can't benefit from you without giving you something to benefit in return, or if I can't benefit from you flat out without even without you needing anything from me, right? People, when pushed to that level, will do what it takes. This is something they recognize in crime, right? Crime rates go down when people have more opportunities and more availability. That's just the statistics. Anytime a community has fed into the education and the economy of a region, the crime rate has dropped. This means that people are more willing to live a more parasitic life when they don't have options available. It's not judged, right? What happens when push comes to shove? So think about it like this. And there's many ways in which you can view a parasitic relationship. And oftentimes a parasitic relationship gets confused with a commensal relationship, meaning some people don't realize that they're being used. There's a difference between being helpful and being used. And here's the thing: sometimes people will take from you what you didn't know that you had, and you don't recognize it until you're low on it or until it's gone. So again, parasitic relationships are just those where one party is being drained for another to benefit, whether that's financial, whether that's resourceful, whether that's emotional, whether that's mental. This is a type of relationship that you can actually cut off entirely, because parasites do not benefit. There's no reward for being full of parasites. Having parasites in your home, having parasites in your family, there's no benefit. You can cut parasites off. The last one is competition. Now, competition, though it carries an air of negativity, is actually a necessary thing. It's actually very beneficial if put in the right context, right? It gives both parties a drive. You want it, I want it, who wants it more? It keeps us motivated, keeps us from getting lazy. It keeps us in a state of, well, when it's healthy, right? There is an area of competition that can be detrimental to both parties, where they're so focused on each other that they're missing the goal altogether. Us versus them, me versus you, and we miss out entirely, right? We see this a lot, especially as leaders, people recognizing us as threats when we're not trying to be threats, because they see the potential of you being great. Oh, this is a common story. This isn't even ministry specific. This is in every industry. There's some level of competition. How that competition goes, the heart behind that competition really determines. Competition can make or break a system. Sometimes it's healthy, sometimes it's not. But overall, it's one of those things that's on its own isn't necessarily evil or bad, right? So having someone around you that challenges you could be a good thing, could be a bad thing. It just depends, right? So my advice overall, as a leader, as a person, make sure that you have mutual relationships, people that you benefit from and people that benefit from you. I'd also recommend having some commensal relationships, people that you can go to for help that don't want anything from you, or people that you help that can't do anything for you. If you recognize parasites or you yourself are a parasite, stop, but cut it off, right? There's no benefit of having parasites in your life in any capacity. If they were benefiting you, they would not be parasites. Something that takes more than it gives and it's draining to the host. Cut those off. And then competition. Recognize the type of competition that you're in. If it's righteous, stay in it. If it's not, get out of it. Some competition is good. Sometimes it's bad. Sometimes it's necessary. Sometimes it's unnecessary. It really just depends on the situation. It's a giant maybe. Now, hopefully I did a good job with this topic. Y'all let me know in the comments if y'all understood what I was trying to share with y'all today. That's really it. If you haven't already, check out my book, Kemetic Prayers. You can find it on ebook and paperback on Amazon. Right? It's a compilation of Kemetic prayers, hesses, hymns, and all types of other stuff. So if that interests you, check it out. Leave comments down below. Let me know what other topics within Kemeticism would you like for me to cover. That's it for this session. Until next time. Ankwaz Jed, Ankunjab Seneb.